Hello, my common people. You have tuned into Common Car Reviews and listening to the voice of your lovely host Pepsi. Summer is slowly leaving us, not yet completely, but faster than we even know it. My summer was full of doing basically nothing. I slept, I snoozed, and if I had some time, I would take a nap. But now, the tiny summary of movies I enjoyed during my break. Talk to Me was a 2022 Australian supernatural horror film directed by Danny and Michael Filippo in their feature directional debut. It was written by Danny Philipp and Bill Hinzman, and it had an interesting plot. What if otherworldly possessions were a party drug? Well, we humor this concept when a group of teenagers whip out a severed, embalmed hand. If you hold it and say, "Talk to me," you are greeted by a random ghost, and if you say, "I let you in," it possesses you, and you go into a tiny spiritual trip. Which is funny, I guess. Funny until it goes south, as we see at the start when one of the possessed kids kills his own brother. We follow a family where a daughter Jade and her brother Riley spend time with their mutual friend Mia, who is struggling because her mother's death anniversary is on the door. She died when she took too much sleeping pills, or so it says. This movie goes around parties where teenagers have hell of a time, tripping and drinking, and who would guess this messing with afterlife brings some gnarly shit to the real world. We see violence, revelations, plot twists, and tears more than we can hold. It was a good movie. I really enjoyed the plot that was so much different from the rest. And the ending made you really think that what happened and when, and maybe you should watch this movie again. Amongst family drama and distrusting your loved ones, we are a fitting time of grief for Mia, and we feel her pain as her mother's death was sudden and very unsolved in her own mind. She tries to get by with her father Max, but things are looking grim. Partying, drugs, and tripping with an unknown entity surely doesn't help, but they do it anyway. Do I recommend this movie? Absolutely. It was vastly different than anything I've seen in a long time, and it was a banger. Next movie is different. During one rainy day I went and watched a weird horror comedy film named Deadstream. It was 2022 production from America, directed and written and produced and edited by wife and husband Vanessa and Joseph Winter in their directional debut, with Joseph also acting as a lead actor. Oh, and also he composed soundtrack for this film, so very talented fellow. Plot tells us about a YouTuber who has a bucket list for facing his every possible fear. And after a hefty time out from the platform because his shenanigans, he came to face his final fear. Ghosts. YouTuber Disgraced goes into the haunted house, where he stays a night, live streaming the whole experience. First of all, this was really well made horror comedy. Horror was this first person rummage in a haunted house, where weird noises can be heard and eerie backstory haunts you on the way. We hear about an old man who died, we hear about the dead children, and well, dead everything really. Disgraced even when he's responding to all this with YouTuber style, screaming and talking to chat and commenting on questions in chat and stuff, is still acting well being scared. He doesn't make too much unnecessary comments that would take away from the horror and flatten the atmosphere we have. If you didn't guess already, the hauntings are real and ghosts make themselves known. This guy gets what's coming to him. A ghost is making sure that he knows what's up. I really liked how humor mixed up with the scares, even if things were really creepy just a minute ago. For example, what made me almost howl in laughter was that ghost manifesting and then being like a person. In a scene where scary and supernatural entity suddenly falls down the stairs like someone's grandma. I also like the twist and turns plot had. It wasn't just a haunted house, it was a story that slowly unravels itself and then surprising us with a twist. Good stuff. I recommend watching this, one of the best horror comedies I have ever seen. The next movie was actually in theaters. The Death of Robin Hood is 2026 American thriller film starring Hugh Jackman as Robin Hood in a much eerie adaptation of the 17th century ballad Robin Hood's Dead. The film also stars Bill Skarsgård as Little John, so we got a nice amount of talent in our hands. And oh boy, we got a story. Story depicts Robin Hood as an old man who is tired and seeks nothing more than honorable death. In this story, Robin Hood is not a good guy, but a mere highwayman, a robber, scoundrel, and an outlaw that can be killed like an animal. People spread rumors about him, far and wide, but little do they know it was the Robin Hood himself who started those rumors. He killed people, robbed people. Yes, sometimes a bad guy died, but such was a number of his victims that he does not remember their names or faces. Little John wanted Robin to join him to fend off a clan next to him, where he had stolen the land and taken a place of a husband and a father. Everything goes south as they escape, and John takes him to the monastery, St. Clement's, where a prioress, Sister Bridget, nurses him back to health. Can he escape the ghost of this past, or do they haunt him forever? That you can figure out when you go and watch this, as I recommend it so much. This movie had a good atmosphere and a good acting. Hugh Jackman did not disappoint, as I saw a hint of old man Logan there, and Skarsgård already made his stay as a talented actor we should always be on lookout. Most of the time, the thick fog settled in the mountain range, and people wandering and staying low. People were killed for less than a dime, and we watched on as brutal violence ensued even from the slightest things. Overall, this movie was full of melancholy vibes, telling a tale about a man celebrated as a hero and feared as a devil. I enjoyed my 2 hours this movie went on, and give it a big thumbs up. But that was my summer movies worth mentioning in a nutshell. We continue our usual stuff towards my favorite season of the year, and I tend to put out a movie every Friday for you, my common viewers. You listened Common Guy Reviews, and speaking to you was your loveliest Pepsi, and I'll see you in the next review. Goodbye.